Ooh, what oh chaps, I am Magical Mike, and this is my Sylvari character. I played a thief in the beta, it was really good, I enjoyed all the skills, and oh, it's so good playing a Sylvari for the first time, it's really... no, sorry, my mistake, I'm playing a char thief. I'll explain that in a minute, but right now, I will mention that you can follow me on Twitter at YTMagicalMike, for, again, no good reason, I don't know why you would, but I'm just throwing that out there. And, yes, I played a char thief, and I'm going to talk about all the stuff that I experienced in the last beta weekend in this video, because, honestly, I didn't get a whole lot of footage, and I just want to throw it all into one video and just condense it all and talk about what happened, basically. So, I was a Sylvari just then, and you've probably seen videos all about this stuff, but they added this thing called the Box of Fun to the cash shop, and this Box of Fun, you buy it for 250 gems at the moment anyway, that obviously subject to change, and it will give you different effects, and, well, you get it in your inventory, you put it down, it's a static object, anyone around the area can interact with it, so if you put it in an area with 100 people, you can get 100 different effects going off at the same time, and it's much more fun when there's a big crowd of people. The footage in the background is probably going to be that, and it's going to be showing you all the different things that are going off on it. So we get things like giant characters, miniature characters, you get transformed into pigs, grit, Sylvari, you get transformed into char bandits and have really cool armor for a bit, you get stealth, all sorts of things, fireworks, and I guess I shouldn't go over absolutely everything, but it is pretty fun. I imagine that when the game comes out, that these things won't be very popular, they won't be bought very much, but I can see them being possibly given out as festival rewards and things. Say like, remember Guild Wars 1 Christmas, you'd get hats and things like that, and then you get like trick-or-treat bags for Halloween. I imagine you'd get probably a few of these things for festival rewards, and that seems like a really good idea, actually. I'd be surprised if they don't take advantage of that. So they were a ton of fun, and I used them in different areas to get different things, and we tested out swimming and all sorts of stuff, and yeah, had a lot of fun with those. They made a few changes to the cash shop. They added costumes, so you can be a pirate, you can be a cook. I think there was a different one, but I don't remember it. They added hats, and the costumes at least gave you a set of skills. They were like, the pirate one was a town clothing costume, so I'm not sure if there's any footage of my char wearing this stuff, but just look out for it, it might be there, it might not be. But they gave you a whole new set of skills, so I got a swashbuckling skill on skill 1, which is basically just a kind of 100 blades thing with a one-handed sword, if you can imagine that. I got, more like blur. If you've played the Mesmer and you've equipped a sword, you get the blur skill. It's kind of like that, but it doesn't actually do any damage. You get a shout, which basically your character says "Yar," which is great, but it sounds really awkward when a char's doing it because it doesn't sound very char-like. It sounds very human. So maybe think about that one. Or to be honest, I couldn't even hear it in my game because my sound was so awkward. I couldn't hear any of the character noises and things like that. I don't know, might just be me, but it's no big deal. There was a third one called Walk the Plank, which basically, I need to stop saying basically, don't I? It made your character fall over in a puddle of water, and it was for comedic effect. All these things have a cooldown as well. The next two have a huge cooldown on them. I know skill 5 builds a cannon, and everyone around can interact with it, and it fires things. It doesn't do any damage, of course, but it's a cannon. Hurrah! Piratey goodness and things. And that's got an 1800 second cooldown on it, so that is really long. If you accidentally use that and then wanted to use it somewhere else, then, well, you've kind of wasted it. And the fourth one summons a parrot. There's not much more to say about that. So, in the end, they gave us a whole ton of gems for free, and you could get another 2,000 if you entered your credit card information, again for free. And I thought, well, I'm not going to use these gems, they're giving them out for the beta to test things out. I'm just going to blow them all on costumes, glasses, and boxes of fun, and mini pets, and all sorts of great stuff. I just thought, you know what, I might as well use what we've got, right? And it was pretty fun. The mini-pets, I really love the mini-pets. They seem to have added new ones and changed them and included the bank space for them. I didn't get any particularly good mini-pets this time, but I did get a fire imp, which you might see in the footage somewhere. I got a shaman, shamany, something. I got one of those, like, he was cool. I got a lot of ettins. I think I got about 5 ettins, which was a bit crap. In all honesty, I don't like the ettins very much, but they're very common. I got a polar bear, which surprised me. If this was Guild Wars 1, I'd be incredibly rich right now, but it's not, so never mind. And the good thing about these mini-pets is that you can trade them. You can send them as mail to people and sell them and do all sorts of things. Actually, thinking about that, maybe that's not such a good thing, because you could pay for gems and then you could sell them for gold, and I don't know. Depends how you look at it. Might be good, might not be good. Who knows? We'll have to see when the game's released. I mentioned that they'd added bank space for these things, and they also included bank space for the insignias and the tokens. You know, the things that you get off monsters like tiny claws and blood and I can't remember. There's loads of things that go into insignias and armor making and things like that, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? You're not stupid. And they added bank space for those, which is so good, so good, because they were clogging up my inventory and my bank a hell of a lot, and I couldn't bring myself to just bin them because they're so essential for making armor and weapons. So now you can just deposit collectibles like you can with every other thing, like hunks of meat and wood and copper ore and things like that, which is just great. I'm glad they added that. I should also now talk about the background footage, which probably will have changed somewhere where I've been talking. You're probably now looking at the finale event, which was great fun. I should probably point out that I think I got it on film, I'm not sure. At one point there might be a huge dragon in the sky. I'll be sure to try and put some text and just highlight it for a second so that you guys can see it, because it's only a very, very short glimpse of the guy. It could have been the Shatterer, I'm not sure. I don't remember myself, and I only saw it for a couple of seconds. So, could be the Shatterer that we saw. But what happened was, the end event was a thing where they encased the waypoints in crystal. They crystallized all the waypoints and they branded all of the mobs in the zone. And these mobs were, some of them you could kill, some of them you couldn't kill, and they were just immune to all damage. The waypoints encased in crystal you could target. They were like bandit barricades and things like that. You could target them and destroy them and free up the waypoints, and then you could spawn at them. But if you got killed at any point by any of these branded mobs, you turned into a branded mob yourself, which is really, really cool. You got a new set of skills, so let's explain them quickly. You got one set that fired 2 things out, which just did damage. Your healing skill gave you swiftness or quickness. I can't remember which, one of those 2 things, and obviously healed you. You could dodge, which just made you run a little bit faster. It was quite comedic when you dodged, actually. Skill 2 was ride the lightning, pretty much. Skill 3 sent out 2 things that could cripple, but they were projectiles and they could be easily dodged. Skill 4 was like, I can't remember the name of the skill. It's an elementalist skill again. It's like churning earth or something. The one where all the rock spikes come out of the ground the longer you channel it for, and it knocks people back and it does a lot of damage. And skill 5 did like a chaos storm. And the whole point of this event was to try and PvP against the people who weren't branded yet, and to try and kill those and then turn them into branded people. And there was a bar which basically told you how branded the zone was. Obviously the point of it was to try and fill that bar up, or to try and get it down if you weren't branded yet. But you could actually just revive if you were branded, so the bar could only go up, the zone could only get worse and worse and worse. You couldn't clean it, there was no way to do that. But it was really good fun, PvPing with people, just in a regular PvE zone. That was interesting. Seeing the Shatterer maybe was kind of interesting, even though I only saw it for a second or 2. And, oh, of course, at the end they threw out the Destiny's Edge. That is yeah, mind went blank for a second there. I thought I'd said the wrong guild name. I may have done, but I'm moving on. Destiny's Edge come out. They're kind of immune to all damage, and yeah, I'm not sure if you could ever kill them, but they had Ritlock, they had Air. I didn't see Logan or Keith or I forget the Zera's name. My bad. I didn't see those guys. Maybe they weren't there. Maybe they were and I didn't see them. I don't know. Whatever. You couldn't kill them, and the beta event ended somewhere in the middle of that, so we didn't even get to see, at least on our server, we didn't get to see what happened at the end. So that was the end event. It was really good fun. Oh, and I didn't mention, if you go in water, you turn into a shark, apparently. I'd never found any water to dive into, so I didn't get to see that, and there won't be any footage of it, but you're just gonna have to take my word for it that it was good fun. So now we're going to move on to what I actually did during the beta. I played a Char Thief and a Norn Necromancer. I'll talk about those a bit more in detail later on, and we'll go into detail and I'll talk about them as professions and what I thought about them later. But for now, I'll tell you, I spent my time wandering around randomly and just sort of casually doing meta events and just sort of whatever took my fancy, I would walk over there and just see what I could do and just sort of mess around with it. Playing the game like that, playing the game casually, is way, way more fun than just grinding the renown quests, you know, the hearts, right? If you're the kind of person that goes into the game and goes, right, my goal today is to do this, 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 and this, and this, all these hearts and all these skill points, and you go from point A to point B to point C, and you don't stop to admire things and to relax a little bit and take a rest, and you know, if you don't stop and you just go from point A to point B, you're gonna find it boring, and you're gonna find it a bit more tedious. Maybe not boring, but you're definitely gonna find it less enjoyable than if you were to just sort of hang around and mess about a bit. Because I had so much more fun just sort of hanging around in one area and seeing what people were doing and just helping out the odd person here and there. Way, way more fun. The only one time when we did do something to a point was when we went into the Diessa Plateau, I think it's named. I think it's called that. The second Char area. When me and a few friends were teaming up with a certain YouTuber that you might know. I'm not going to mention his name, but I'm sure he'll put the video out soon, and then I'll be able to put an annotation here, somewhere here. So just look on the screen, there could be an annotation to that video, where we pushed an event chain to the very, very end at the Flame Temple, and you get to do an underwater dungeon. I think it's called the Font of Rand. I'm not entirely sure. I wasn't paying too much attention because it was such a big mess to me, and it was really hard to understand what was going on. I was tired and all sorts of stuff. I had a lot of fun with that though, and be sure to check out his video when he puts it up, because I'm sure it'll be great fun. And yeah, I had a lot of fun doing that. It was really challenging. It was really confusing. There was all sorts of stuff. The most confusing part, of course, was the part where you had to you had to touch a torch that gave you a freezing buff. Then you had to open some coffins which would release bubbles, and then you'd shoot the bubbles and they'd fire something off and reflect your projectile, and then they'd freeze things. I don't even know what the hell was going on. I don't know who figured that out, but there's some kind of genius technique going on there. Anyway, moving on. What else did I do? I did a lot of World vs. World, and I'll tell you that I'll talk about World vs. World in a bit later, but I spent a lot of my time doing the jumping puzzle, doing that jumping dungeon that we did in the previous video, and I loved it. That first time going through was amazing. It was great. There was nobody around. Well, a couple of people that we killed, of course. That was good fun, even if we were being a bit harsh doing that, but all in the spirit of World vs. World. And I went back and I spent probably about 3 more hours just messing around in there. I did that a couple more times, and we just screwed around with people. With the stealth, we did ridiculous stuff where, I know at one point there was a guy manning those traps that you found me on in that video. That's the first point you see me at, the first set of traps. There was a guy there on the enemy team. I think they were Darkhaven. He was sat there we had an ally just above the flame traps. Both of them had longbows, and they were just at a standoff because they could both hit each other, but neither of them wanted to kill each other. Well, I'm sure they both wanted to kill each other, but they didn't want to screw each other up, basically. And I was in stealth, just trying to make my way across these traps to get behind the Darkhaven guy. And I made it all the way onto the part where the wall gets really thin, and then my stealth ran out. And then there was a moment where both of us just looked at each other, me and the enemy. He noticed me immediately, and we just sort of looked at each other, and I'm sure he could have reached me because he had a longbow, but he just sort of, his first reaction was to panic and run away. And there was just that moment where both of us were just like, oh god, what's gonna happen? It was great. It was it was, as much as I can't make it sound thrilling, it was thrilling. I know my voice doesn't give that impression across very well, but you could just got to trust me on this. It was so much fun. There was a lot of stuff like that. There was loads of standoffs, load of little gambits like that, where certain people would try and get around behind other people and all sorts of stuff. And I know the best part of it was when you would be in stealth, and you'd find the enemy team, and they'd all be getting stuck on this one bit of the puzzle, and you'd just sneak past, you'd literally walk inches past them, just sort of sliding past them as if you were in a queue or something, or in a crowded area, just oh man, it was so much fun, and it was, honestly, my heart was pounding at that point, because at any point my stealth could have ran out, and I would have been so dead. Oh, best fun I had, by far. I also did the Raven jumping puzzle in the Norn area, in the Snowden Drifts. It only took me 2 tries. I know a lot of people said that was really hard. There was a certain video that I watched that I'm not going to name, but certain people watching this will know what I'm referring to. No, I'm not going to give you any clues. But that person said, oh, we'll edit out all of the fails. I re-watched that recently to see how hard it was. That person failed 10 times. 10 times that we actually saw. I mean, they could have failed even more than that, but who knows. 10 times. I fell off that thing once. I'm not trying to boast, but I'm trying to say that that puzzle was not as hard as that person was making it out to be. But it was a hell of a lot of fun, and I really appreciated that. It was definitely a bit easier because I could stealth for a couple of seconds on my thief. Granted, that skill was on a 60-second cooldown, but if you're smart with dodging, you're smart with Death Blossom, you can dodge and you can avoid being knocked off and all sorts of stuff like that. That was good fun. The second jumping puzzle I did was the really annoying one that a lot of people have shown in the Plains of Ashford, with the fire and the scale matriarch in the chest room and all sorts of stuff like that. The fire thing is so hard to time that I still don't understand the timing at all. I looked my way through that, and I don't know how I did it. Not a clue. But I did. You get to the end, you kill the scale matriarch after examining the chest. Of course, you don't get anything for doing that, so you wonder, well, is that it? Is that my reward? Nothing? That's kind of sucky. You do get an achievement, which throws you off a little bit. There's actually a letter on the floor which you should examine and listen to, because it tells you that there is a pressure plate up in the rafters. Now, the question is, how do you get up into the rafters? Well, look on the walls. There's some stones sticking out of the walls that you can actually jump on, get up into the rafters, and then stand on the pressure plate. But when you stand on the pressure plate, you don't get any feedback as to what just happened. If you look carefully, down back in the chest room, actually, a wall has just disappeared, or collapsed or whatever. I didn't actually notice this happen for a while. But that leads you into a second chest room full of loads of treasure. Unfortunately, you can only interact with one of those treasure chests, but you get some items out of that and you actually get a reward for doing it, which is really, really good. So now we're going to talk about some of the changes that they made in this beta. Obviously, the first one that everyone noticed immediately was the square map. Now, there's a big, there's a bit of a controversy with the square map. Is it copying off Diablo 3? Maybe. Is it looking a bit awkward? Maybe. But in all honesty, I thought it would look bad. I thought it was a bit of a stupid idea at first. But after about an hour of playing with it and just looking at it and not paying too much attention to it, you actually get really used to it. And in the end, it does look nicer. And it seems to fit in better, especially with the little integrated mini UI thing on it. With the compass, the UI was all cluttering around it and sort of, it looked a bit more awkward and things like that. But now, if you take your mouse away from the map, you don't get to see the controls anymore. If you hover your mouse back onto the map, all the controls you get to see on the map, like the zoom in and out, you get to move it around, you get to center it on your character, center it on your waypoints, and all sorts of things like that. Really handy. I like that addition. I actually like the map improvements. I also like the dodge bar improvement. I also thought that would be a little bit awkward, a little bit strange to begin with, but you get used to it, and it's actually really handy because you now know that it's split up into two halves, and you get to see where that first half is, and you know that one dodge will take half of your bar away, so you know if you've got enough for a dodge or whatever. It's not just flashing, it's also visually like telling you exactly how much you need to dodge. Something I didn't mention about the map, sometimes when you're looting things, sometimes it overlaps and obscures the map, it looks a little bit odd. I'm not sure about that. Sometimes you don't even notice that you've looted anything because the map is kind of in the way. Maybe they could anchor the loot sort of to the edge of the top of the map so that it scales when you move the map up and down so that you can actually see what you're looting. That might be an idea. I don't know. Maybe not. It doesn't make too much of an impact because I'm looting everything all the time anyway, but it might just look a bit cleaner if they do that. They also added new chest icons above the map, so they give you little extra rewards for doing daily achievements and for completing the map and all sorts of things like that. I like that. It's handy, because I know if you explored everything in, say, a city, say Lion's Arch, you would get nothing for that in the previous beta. Now you do, and I like that. So far, you only get a couple of thousand extra experience points for it, but it's better than nothing, right? And you get to click a chest, and everyone loves clicking chests, so that's really good. A lot of you will already know that they redid traits, and they did skill tiers, and things like that. I'm not too keen on the trait thing, but since I didn't mess around with traits too much last time, it's actually not as confusing as I'd expected, and it's fairly simple. As long as you mess around with it for a couple of minutes, you understand it. And it's fine that they limit your choices a bit because it's now giving you less choice, which is therefore less confusing, and I like that. It's really good. They also they split skills into tiers, the utility skills, so now you need a number of skills. You need 5 skills from tier 1 to unlock tier 2, and that adds a progression system, which I kind of like, but sometimes it sucks that you have to buy less useful skills, which I'll talk about on the Thief in particular. And they also changed some skill orders on weapons, but the only one I noticed was the Ranger Greatsword skills. They moved Swoop, which was skill, I want to say skill 2 in the previous beta. They've moved it now to skill 3 or 4, and that caused me a lot of problems actually this time, because I would swoop into ridiculous situations and get myself downed, which was actually kind of funny, so it's my own fault for not paying attention. Now, something I complained about in the last video that I did was that cross-profession combos were too confusing. The only feedback you'd get from that would be the word combo coming up, but you wouldn't know what the hell you just did. Now they've added little grey hearts that pop up when you do skill combos that actually tell you what effect it has. So you'll get something like regen or burning or something like that. I can't think of any more. Blind and just things like that. You'll get to tell you. The game will give you feedback on what you just did and what effect it had, which I absolutely love, and it's a really nice idea. Thank you, really good change, really like that. But it's not quite, just pipped at the post by the little change of the merchanting, which they added in a button. I know that was a really roundabout way of explaining that. Basically, when you talk to a merchant, there is now a sell junk button, which is a freaking godsend, because now I don't have to fiddle around with different little bits and pieces and figure out what I'm selling and what I'm not and what I need to keep and all that crap. Now I can just hit sell junk, all my junk is gone, and I can move on. Brilliant. I love that they streamlined all this stuff. Lag is still an issue, which is fine because it's a beta, that's fine, but overall it definitely feels more optimized. I can tell so much that it's way more optimized than the last time, and maybe you'll notice it in the footage, maybe not. I don't know. I haven't really looked through it myself. I'm just going to put it on. I'll be honest, I'm not paying attention to the footage myself, and So they fixed a lot of the lag. It's not fully optimized yet, but they've definitely started using the video card. I can tell because mine was getting a bit heated, which is good because it makes it work harder and all, yeah, blah 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 blah, all that crap. They added the Mystic Forge functionality, which seems interesting. I only used it once. I dumped in 2 crappy pistols and 2 crappy daggers, and exchanged those and got a nice level 26 spear gun from that. I think I got a spear gun. It was definitely an underwater weapon. It could have been just a regular spear actually, or a trident or something. But I got a really nice one of those with a blue sigil inside it, and it was pretty good. It's interesting, but we'll see how useful it actually is, or if it just turns out to be a distraction, or if we get anything unique from it, or if you need to spend money in the gem store to get those recipes. I don't know. We'll see. And with that, I'm going to have to split this video because I accidentally talked for an hour. So, tune in for part 2. I hope you enjoyed this part. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next part.